When I was 23 years old, I decided to move to Washington on my own from California. I struggled with my life at home and complications with my family and personal relationships and felt the drastic change was what I needed. I got in touch with some family friends that lived on Bainbridge Island, and they offered me a place to stay in exchange for some household work. It was a scary time for me, and I came with no more than a couple of suitcases and a couple $100 in my bank account. One of my hardest challenges I faced with my move was the criticism and lack of acceptance from my extended family on my father's side. My grandmother in particular was especially against my decision and threatened to disown me as a part of her family if I left the state. I had already dealt with a great deal of difficult relationships and issues with her specifically throughout my life, but I did love and care for her deeply. I was angry and hurt to be put in a position of choosing between a better life for myself and her support. My father's family had many toxic traits and unhealthy dynamics, but I cared for them. This toxicity did play a large role in why I wanted to leave California to begin with, and I ultimately knew that letting go of my past was the best choice for me. I did try to reach out to them from time to time after leaving, and sometimes my grandmother would respond vaguely and sometimes not at all. My efforts dwindled over the years until I stopped trying altogether, and before I knew it, half of a decade had passed without any correspondence between her and the rest of my father's family. I knew she was getting quite old and her health was deteriorating, and I worried and harbored a lot of guilt about what would happen when she would pass away and all of the unresolved conflicts we had. As more time went by, it became harder to imagine reconnecting. I got married, became pregnant with my first child, and about a month before giving birth, I received news from my father that my grandmother had suffered from a major stroke and passed away. I worried that all the years I spent with my grandmother and the good times that we shared were wasted by recent years of distance. I experienced such sadness and numbness. I wanted to attend her funeral, but because I was so pregnant, I was not in a safe condition to travel on my own. I have held on to the guilt and sadness of not resolving my difficulties between my grandmother and myself for many years. Today, I say goodbye to this guilt. I will always miss my grandmother, but I'm accepting that I made the right choice for myself, and I believe she can now see that, wherever she is. I would encourage anyone put in a similar situation to have faith in their choices, especially when guided by the goal of improving their overall well-being and happiness.